And we're back. It's Elsie's Little Pickles with me, Steve, and my brother Keith. What's shaking, bacon? What's
quite a
wetting
bit in the news.
What's wetting your
There's a
noodle?
lot going. There's quite a bit going on.
Tell me all about
that
it.
I think we need to talk about.
Tell me all about it.
Number one, right off the bat, the RNC has gone full Trump.
Yes.
As in, now his daughter-in-law is in charge of the RNC, and they've begun the purge. Eliminating everybody who is not loyal to Kiss the Ring.
Well, that sounds a lot like Project 2025.
That's exactly where I'm going with this. That is step one of Project 2025, as I've discussed with a friend of mine that we're going to have on the show eventually here to talk about Project 2025. But it is straight out of the playbook day one, and they've started.
Well, the funny thing is that if you pay attention to kind of Trump land, it seems like he's trying to rebrand Project 2025 into Project 47, which is, I'm going to take all those ideas, but I'm going to put my stamp on it. So like everything with Trump, he's got to put his name on it in one way or the other.
Correct.
What I find even funnier is that apparently on Truth Social, and I read the post, providing it wasn't made by somebody else, and essentially forged, that he is trying to give himself a nickname. Did you hear this one?
I did not hear this.
This I just found out last night.
Is it Trumpty Dumpty?
No, it's not. It's Honest Don. Honest Don. That's what he wants his nickname to be. Honest Don. And I'm pretty sure that the New York Times has about 30,000 plus issues with Honest Don. And here's the sad part.
I'm pretty sure that there are court cases in the past. I'm not talking about the future.
I would disagree with that. Yeah.
But past court rulings. And court cases going back to the late 70s, early 80s that would say, you're not very honest, Don.
No, and here's the thing about it. Like, I don't think he's thinking it through, or maybe he is. It's always hard to tell with him. And again, I'm not picking sides. I'm making observations as a spectator. And I'll make hard observations on Biden as well. But on this particular
I gotta say, right off the bat, if I can give him one compliment, it is his ability to try to change the perspective. Is that a word? Perspection?
No, perspective.
Perspective of getting out in front of shit. Changing the narrative to fit his narrative.
Oh, he's brilliant at it.
He's great at it.
No, he's fucking brilliant. Like, I'm sorry, but you have to, as a just a citizen of the country, you don't even have to be political. You don't have to be plugged in and watching the news as much as you and I do. You have to admire his grift, because he's brilliant at it. He really is. And I'll be honest with you, I think he picked the wrong lane. I think he should have gone into stand-up. I mean, he is clearly able to.
The problem is there's no power in stand-up.
That's the thing. Is like there is, but you have to be Chappelle level, Chappelle Rogan level to have any power. But the problem with Honest Don is it sounds like something you would hear in a bad, like, local commercial advertising B-lot car dealership. You know what I mean? Like, come on down now, Honest Don's. We got the best cars you will ever find. They're going fast. Hurry. And it's it's a little ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, I think this idea of the nicknaming has just gotten silly. And it's gotten to the point where, like, he's nicknaming himself. Come on, Jesus Christ. Help us all out here and get out of second grade. Get out of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw a speech where he tried to change merge Biden with migrant, came up with migrant,
Yeah, actually, I was
and
impressed with that. Migrant, I was like, oh, that's not bad. Like if you,
well, it made me feel like, what are we saying that they're bisexual? Are we saying that they will come across either border?
they're just they're biborderal. Great. Now
I'm
now
just
we're gonna
saying.
get fucking emails from people who are biborderal.
Damn you.
Damn you! That's my gender. Come on, fucking just take a minute and think about whether that's the hill you want to die on.
And
Yeah,
we're not demeaning people's labels. We don't always understand it, but we ask questions. And
I have no
I
problem.
I think I
I'd like
think
to
you and I both are people that we don't care what you identify as, what you want to do. I don't care. I don't think you care. Either way, you're a human being.
No, I couldn't give a shit. What I don't like though is the labels. Be you. You know what I mean? Do
Yeah.
whatever you do. You know,
All I ask, honestly, all that I ask is if I give you a wrong pronoun or a wrong label, just don't get mad.
yeah,
You can
because
correct me.
fuck,
It's
it's
cool.
hard to keep up. It's hard to keep
Yeah.
up. There's so many. There's so
And
fucking many.
also in the news is Robert Kennedy Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has come up with a list of two running mates for his election campaign. I don't know if you heard about this.
You know, briefly, and I don't know what they are, but I did see something.
I do.
Well, here's the thing. Literally, like moments before, I was just flipping through X, Twitter, and I saw something that said something to the effect of Mike Rowe was one of them, one of the options.
Oh, that I did not hear.
I think that's
But
actually fascinating.
That's not listed in the news today.
Okay, so who are they?
The two at the top of his list for running mates are Jesse Ventura or Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I don't think you're going to get Aaron Rodgers to leave a very lucrative career.
Yeah, he might give a speech and on the second sentence or fourth sentence, I'm sorry, develop laryngitis.
Exactly.
But
I'm sorry.
for
So
you football fans,
Jesse,
you know what I'm talking about.
Jesse was the other one.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with Jesse Ventura. I think he's a little odd, but I think his intent is good. You know what I mean? Like again,
Yes.
this is one of those things where it's like when it comes to politics, I don't have to support the party to support the candidate. You know what I mean? Like and to me a lot of times when I'm looking at the candidates, I realize that they're not going to be able to do probably most of what they want, right? There's just certain realities as far as like, you know, making the gears of Congress move in that direction. You're not going to get everything you want. And that is good and bad. However, I do think that when you're looking at a candidate, you should at least attempt to see past the political bullshit and see if what they're doing or what they're proposing is just political speak or if it's something that they genuinely believe in. And if they genuinely believe in it, even if it's things I disagree with, all right? So as an example, I'm pro-choice. But I do believe there's a lot of pro-life people out there that are genuine in their support of pro-life as I am in my view of pro-choice. I can't fault them for their opinion. They're welcome to it. We can disagree about it. We can agree to disagree about it. We can discuss it. But at the end of the day, there's nothing you're going to say to change my mind, and there's nothing I'm going to say to change your mind. And we just have to come to terms with that and then put it through the process. And I think that when it comes down to it, Jesse, whether you agree with him or you disagree with him, you cannot say that he does not believe what he's trying to accomplish. I think he does. And I think that that's something that's admirable in Republicans and in Democrats and in independents is like I look at Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I don't think they're authentic. I think they're insane. I think that they are in it for themselves, and they will do and say whatever it takes to try to move their name and their brand and their fortune forward.
By the way, did you see the video of Biden spotting MTG?
No.
At the State of the...
Oh, yeah, when he went... What? That was probably one of the best responses. That got more fucking airplay across television and social media than anything else he did on the State of the Union. I thought it was brilliant.
And, yeah, it was a brilliant speech. He
nailed it.
He's getting slammed for being fiery, but you know what? It got people talking.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people looked at that, myself included, okay? Because I've, for quite a long time, thought every time I saw him, I felt like he was missing another step. But I will hand it to him. Watching the State of the Union, I thought, okay, this seems like the guy that everyone tells us exists behind closed doors. And he seemed sharp. He seemed, I mean, again, you don't have to agree with him. You don't have to like him. You don't have to vote for him. But if you're going to give an honest assessment of what he did in the State of the Union, you cannot say that it came across like a dithering old man. He seemed pretty fucking sharp. And I don't care if they got him pumped full of fucking Adderall or whatever. In that moment, he delivered. And I would say that people need to look at, especially with these two candidates, you need to be able to look at each of these candidates and go, all I really need, considering their age, both of them. I mean, they're what, 3-4 years apart? And yes.
About 3 or 4 years.
Okay, so at the end of the day, no matter how many drugs they have to pump into these motherfuckers, as long as they pump enough to get them to the level of coherent that I saw Biden on State of the Union, where they're on point, they're making their point, they're clear in their speech, they're, by anyone's standards, 100% present. What fucking more you want? No one else wants that job. No one... Why would you want that job?
By the way, of reportedly the amount of Adderall, Xanax.
Yeah, that
apparently
they were giving it out like a fucking gift bag at the fucking Oscars.
No. In the Trump White House.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Is like, and I believe it was Ronnie Jackson that was in charge at that time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, and just handing out pill packs right and left. And you know what? I get it. It's a stressful job. All those people who are, whether it's cabinet, whether it's, just the day-to-day grind workers that, that participate in the process. These guys are putting in long hours. So I get it. I don't even have a problem with it, to be honest with you. I'm to the opinion that the vast majority of drugs are probably going to lead people to be more productive, and you'll have the occasional car crash. You're going to lose the occasional staffer here and there, but let's keep these motherfuckers alert and I want my fucking government focused. I want them Adderall
Yes.
focused. You know what I mean? So,
Yes.
like, I'll give you an example. I went through a very difficult shoulder surgery. And in the course of that time, I was on massive amounts of painkillers. All through the doctor, nothing sketchy. It was all prescribed. But at one point, I was on damn near 10 pain pills a day. And again, all prescribed. Pain management, the whole deal, right? It was a really horrific surgery. However, the interesting thing that I found was in the course of being doped up out of my fucking head, I was actually more productive than I've ever been in my life. So at that point, I was going to college. I wanted to, for our listeners, you know the background on this, but for the listeners, I had decided that I wanted to get my degree, specifically with something that I was interested in, which turned out to be motorcycles, basically being a mechanic. And I did that because I wanted to set myself up for a hobby when I retired. And it was something I loved and I still love. However, during that period of time, I'm in class. I'm trying to get my degree. I'm writing the book that I wrote. For those of you who are interested, They Called Me Brent. It's on Kindle. I don't even know how much I'm charging for it. I know it's dirt cheap. It's a story of adoption and reunion. So again, go to Kindle. They Called Me Brent. I wrote that book. I got my degree. And I was working full time. And there was something else I did in that period. On top of everything else, I decided I was going to start doing pottery. So I'm doing 4 fucking things, right? Yeah, I know it sounds weird coming from me doing pottery. I know it.
No, I couldn't help but picture you doing pottery and Patrick Swayze coming up behind you.
Oh, that's so funny because here's the fucking story on that, right? So it was a big joke.
So happened.
Oh, it happened. It happened. Except I wasn't. All right. So there were 3 classes that you could take, right? So it was beginner, intermediate, and expert. And I took the expert level twice. And the reason was because when the class finished, I had not finished all the projects I wanted to work on. And I thought, this is worth it. I'm going to do it. So I went back. And it wasn't even like for credit or anything like that necessarily. I mean, I paid for the class or whatever and materials and, yada, yada, yada. But I went back to it because I had it was interesting because I had people that were interested in what I was creating and they wanted me to recreate versions of that for them.
A large clay penis.
Yeah. Cock and balls. So I went back to do this, right? So in this last class that I'm taking for this, there was this other student, and she was incredibly cute. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't look at girl like in a college situation like that. I wasn't looking at her because to me I was like, oh, you could be my kid. You know what I mean? So I find that kind of creepy. Well, turns out this one.
He was your kid?
No. Turns out this girl, for some reason, was drawn to me. And mind you, other side of the classroom, behind me. I never left that particular class, that session, that semester. I never left the wheels, which were on the other side of the fucking class. Like you had to kind of go out of your way to see, like from where they were sitting, like the regular classmates versus where we were sitting. You kind of had to really go out of your way to look over that way. So long story short, this girl, I think she was like 27 at the time, you know what I mean? Maybe less. I'm not even sure. I don't know. She made it very clear that she wanted to be on the wheels, right? And she's on the wheels, and she picks the wheel directly across from me, and is very focused on trying to get my attention, right? And finally, like I'm having none of it because I'm completely oblivious. You know me well enough. Like people listening might think, "Ah, bullshit." No, seriously, completely
Yeah,
oblivious.
when you get focused,
When I'm doing something that's artistic, I have no time or ability to even see outside of what it is I'm working on. I get that obsessive compulsive focus. And when you're working with clay, specifically on the wheel, if you're not that focused, you could literally like flop it over and it could collapse on you. And I'm working on, like, at that point, I'm working on big shit. I'm working, and I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you get into the point where you're using 3 or 4 pounds of clay to create a massive like salad bowl, the last thing you want to do is fuck up that. Okay, you really want to be focused on it because it takes a lot of work, and it's very difficult, and it's a lot of material you're working with. So there's a physical aspect to it, there's a mental aspect to it, and a focus aspect that you just have to be in that moment. This silly bitch is doing everything she can to get my attention, right?
Mhm.
And I'm not buying into it, but finally I'm like, oh, yeah, hold on, let me, and I stop my wheel and I get up and I go over. I'm like, no, you got to do it like this. And she's like, I'm not getting it. She goes, here, get behind me and show me. And motherfucker, at that exact moment, all of the other adults, like the teacher and teacher's assistant, and these are people in their, 50s and 60s. They look over and they just start smiling, right? And I'm like, what the fuck are you guys, what's the shit eating grit? And they go, you are, what's the movie name? Ghost?
Ghost.
They're like, you're totally Patrick Swayze, Swayzeing her. And I go, are you talking about Ghost? And they go, yeah. And they start laughing. And I fell for it. I totally fell for it. And I don't know why we got off on that tangent, but the funny thing is like I was so focused on making this fucking salad bowl, this fucking 4-pound salad bowl, that I didn't even see that this was just a stupid play to try to get me to fucking Patrick Swayze. It's fucking ridiculous. And the thing of it is that once I realized it, I was like, are you? I looked at her. I go, are you fucking kidding me? I mean, like the difference in age was ridiculous. Like under any circumstance, I would not have been. I don't give a shit what the circumstance was. There was just too much of a difference in age, in my opinion, to even come close to feeling comfortable to it. But that's not what pissed me off. That actually I found flattering, that this chick who's 15, 20 years older or younger than me was like I could still get a look. So I was flattered by her, but I'm like, but you put me in the fucking Ghost situation playing pottery. Fuck you. I wouldn't talk to her after that. All right.
And moving right along.
Back to the news.
A top Russian diplomat says Moscow is giving some thought to China's proposal that the world's nuclear powers rule out a nuclear first strike attack.
All right. You're going to have to.
Apparently.
Yeah, explain.
Well, China has called for negotiations to begin on a non-first strike treaty among nations with the largest numbers of nuclear weapons. So they're trying to put a treaty together to get all the powerful countries. If there's a conflict, you don't go to a nuclear first strike. Do everything else first.
All right. So,
which is,
I mean, it sounds like it makes sense.
It's commendable. It's just weird
coming from Russia.
Well, no, it's China that's doing it.
Oh, China's pushing it on, and they're trying to talk Russia into it.
Yes, because China and Russia are kind of aligned, but since the United States has stepped back, they started stepping back under Trump, going into other countries to fix things, China has stepped up, started doing it, which has unnerved some people, because they're not usually the ones to do that. Um, it is a little weird, but it's their way of getting their foothold into things.
Do you think?
And go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think that it might have more to do with the fact that they know they're going to try to take Taiwan, and they're
That
trying
is
to?
a great question.
I think it would make more sense that they're trying to do this to prevent because look, China's not far from Japan, and they've got a memory. So like they know kind of what happens if you really piss us off. I would say that probably has a little bit more to do with the fact that the fuckery that they want to get into with Taiwan. You do know that we almost lived in Taiwan. Did you know that?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know if you remember that because you were pretty young.
Yeah. Yeah, we were like weeks away from moving.
Yeah. I think it was like 6 weeks. We were.
Yeah, something like that.
And I remember I was not happy about that idea.
Well, we could have grown up doing Muay Thai kickboxing.
Well, yeah, but we would also have to learn how to speak the language, which at I don't even know. I think I was like 10. I think I was 10 and you were 5, or right around that area, 12 and 7, something like that. Anyways, it did fall through. So I look at Taiwan.
Well, the younger you are, the easier it is actually to pick up language.
Oh, I know.
So
it would have been
actually would have helped.
It would have been fine for you, but I would have been fucked.
Don't sell yourself short.
I was not on board with that, and made it clear. However, every time Taiwan comes up, oddly, it perks my ears up. And I think, based on the fact of the chip manufacturing that goes on in Taiwan, that's the real reason that China is trying to absorb it. I think that they see the industry in Taiwan, and this goes for computer chips and high-level computer chip manufacturing, all the way down to making scooters, gas-powered scooters. Taiwan is really good at manufacturing shit.
Yes.
They really are. You have to give credit where credit's due, and they're fucking killing it. And that's the only reason I could see China sticking their nose in it like that, is that they want to absorb that manufacturing and that technology. Because really, at the end of the day, where we're at is technology is really the only it's the defining factor. So the countries that have the technology and the ability to manufacture, along with access to, let's say it's minerals that they need, or whatever, those, and you see that with China. China has gone into Africa, bought up a fuck ton of property in Africa, mainly because they're trying to go after cobalt for because they use cobalt in every phone, and China's the number one manufacturer of phones, but Taiwan's the number one manufacturer of chips. So I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a monopoly going on technology. And I could see them doing it. They've got deep enough pockets, and they've got the drive to do that. What they don't have is fucking Taiwan. And the only thing that's standing between them and Taiwan is the United States. So I do think that there is there's more of a connection to it from that point of view than there is like actually giving a shit about nuclear. I think they just realize if we don't have some sort of treaty in place when we start our fuckery with Taiwan, we're going to be in a bad position. It's interesting too.
And, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's interesting too, because it does seem like there's this and there's always been big tech and whatnot, but it does
Yes.
seem like this is narrowed down, and it may be because of AI, it may be because of any number of things. As far as because when you get into the technology aspect of it, and I think a lot of it has to do with AI, because I think where they're going is with these new supercomputers. They're seeing that as the new future, where AI is run by these supercomputers. I forget if they call them, like, what is it, quantum computing, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, quantum computer.
Right. So they've got the and they've built these, but again, you're talking about creating computer chips, not just for regular industry like, automotive and consumer, but now you're talking about this specialized ability to create chips for quantum computers that just,
Sex bots.
yeah, it's coming. It's coming. I don't know if I could do it though. Like, I was just watching this thing on robots and all the advances that in Japan, fucking A, they've got this shit down. Like, Japan has focused on the actual robotics. I think probably more than anyone else. And yes, there'll be people go, well, what about Boston Dynamics? Yeah, you got Boston Dynamics. And I'm talking about in Japan, they're creating life-like robots that are getting harder to tell apart. They're getting harder to tell apart from machines. They're not there yet, and I do think that they'll always hold it back a little bit. However, when it comes to the sex bot industry, I think, man, a couple things. One, all bets are off. They'll go full tilt boogie, whatever they can do, because just like porn made the internet viable, sex bots will make robots viable.
Yes, they will.
Could you? I don't think I could fuck one, though. I don't think I could do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I could do it. I
reserve judgment until I'm faced with that.
Yeah, but there's this idea that you can program them, right? And in doing so, you can, up the level of humor, or you can lower the level of disagreement, and like, you can create it to be exactly what you want. I don't know that I would want that though. Like, who wants that perfect thing in a relationship like that? I think that would just be fucking creepy. And again, they might get to the point where, like, I go, well, I was wrong. I will reserve judgment until faced with it, but right now, I don't think I could fuck a bucket of bolts. and that's how I see it. I see it as this is nothing. Like, why not just go fuck my motorcycle? Because it doesn't have a pretty face.
Well, you could get a fleshlight installed in the tailpipe.
Ooh,
just saying.
And our new sponsor, Fleshlight. Speaking of sponsors, it's a sponsor who's not a sponsor, but it's one that I always like to bring up, and that's the guys over at Sweetwater, specifically Chris Smith. Those guys are fucking awesome. And moving on. So I think that that particular story has more to do with Taiwan.
You think Sweetwater's going to be happy? Like, they threw out a little quick commercial in the middle of talking about fucking a motorcycle.
Well, here's the thing, okay? I don't care. When you don't pay us for promotion, Sweetwater, when you don't give us free equipment, Sweetwater, your plug and your promotion, your free promotion, comes wherever it comes.
And on that note, I'd like to send a shout out to bigbagofdicks.com.
Oh, I'd love
when
that.
you want to send the absolute best, you send bigbagofdicks.com.
So
who doesn't love a big bag of dicks?
I hate to because it shows the 12-year-old in me. But I would honestly love to get four or five sponsors, right?
Yeah.
I would love to get Sweetwater as an actual sponsor because those guys are, again, they're just fucking great to deal with.
They're on the ball.
They're on the ball. I just dig their business model and appreciate the way, like, fucking Chris emailed me and texted me a couple days ago, called me, and I missed the call. So he shoots me a text and an email like, hey, just checking on you, making sure everything's good, blah, blah, blah. Just great customer service. But if we could incorporate that great customer service that we get from Sweetwater and Chris Smith at Sweetwater, and that's one sponsor, I would say that the other two I would love to have, because it's hysterical to me, is Fleshlight and Big Bag of Dicks. I think that those would just be fun. I think that they do what they say they're going to do.
A conjoined sponsorship. With every Fleshlight, you get a big bag of dicks.
I think that would be, that's the marketing right there, is bring Big Bag of Dicks. So you got your little, gummy cocks that you can chew on, but you also got a Fleshlight. What more could you ask for? Now,
well, they got to hire me. I can come up with a lot of different scenarios.
Oh, God. Oh, the commercials we could come up with, the promotions we could come up.
Oh, yeah. I think we should come up with fake commercials just to have fun with it.
Well, maybe we'll leave that up to the audience to decide. But I would say this. The other one, now it used to be Jameson Black Barrel. Okay?
I know where this is going.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, I have to thank you for this. I was only an Irish whiskey drinker and specifically loved two brands, Teeling Small Batch and Jameson Black Barrel. They were my go-tos forever. And so much so, I had saved every cork and decorated my Christmas tree with them. Just a ton of corks, right? Over the course of 10, 15 years. And
so what you're saying is you're a cork saver.
I'm a cork saver. I'm a cork saver. That's what I am. Suck on my cork.
You like to fondle your corks.
Suck on my cork. So, I tried to get Jameson to not even be a sponsor or anything like that for the show, but I did reach out to them, and while they gave me a personalized response, it was not
personalized.
It was. They remarked about several things that showed me that it was actually a person and not just some sort of
automated response.
Yeah, it wasn't automated. And I was disappointed that they couldn't even send a bottle. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't take much to please me. Send me a bottle. One bottle. You know what I mean?
They're gonna send you a cork.
Anything. It could have been just some swag. You know what I mean? And I would have spoke about them endlessly. They didn't. And then you turned me on to Lagavulin 16.
And just beautiful.
You son of a bitch. Quite honestly, one of the most enjoyable whiskeys I've ever had. And I never thought I would leave Irish whiskey and go to Scotch. I just didn't. I remember Dad drinking Scotch
and not and more expression in Scotch.
It's amazing.
Irish whiskey or the American bourbon. Scotch has got way more beautiful.
Yeah, there's something different. You really gotta well, here's the thing, is like I jumped right in both feet and didn't like make my way through like the different scotches. I went right to the hardcore peaty, smoky, just meaty smell. Like you take a sip of this and you're not quite sure if you've got sausage in your mouth or if it's bacon or if it's whatever. It's something delicious though.
See, you so still I would love to. You gotta try and have a little dram of it sitting around a campfire eating some beef.
Oh, I can
Telling
only
you,
imagine. Oh,
telling you,
yeah. There's just something
that's a good night.
there's something about Lagavulin, specifically 16, that is it's just
I also love the 8-year, the Nick Offerman special, but 16.
no. His is an
There's so
11, isn't it? 11 or 12. Offerman's.
oh, it might be 11
I think it's an
actually.
11. I think Nick Offerman did the 11. The 8 I find lacking in that really meaty like expression, that really kind of like hardcore smoky. So I'd love to get a really good whiskey as a sponsor. And it doesn't have to be Lagavulin. It just has to be a good whiskey. I'm not going to promote shit that I don't like. So if you're a whiskey manufacturer and you want to sponsor us, great. I would love to check out what you bring to the table. But you do have high markers because like Lagavulin 16 that's a high water mark in my opinion. You know, for something that is reasonably priced. I mean, you're looking at about $100 a bottle. It's pricey. And
You pay what you get for it.
But you're
what you pay for it.
And it's so good. Okay. Anyways.
Also in the news, Senator Bernie Sanders has announced Wednesday that he will be introducing a bill to establish a standard 32-hour work week that would result in no loss in pay.
God, that'd be wonderful.
That would be great.
I think people need it.
Texas schools that are actually doing only 4 days a week.
I think that people need it. A 3-day weekend. Look,
yes,
you're going to get, even if you had people work 10 hours, 4 days a week, you're going to actually get more out of them. Like, I don't get this idea that we all have to work ourselves to into the grave. If you don't give people the opportunity to not only take care of their lives, take care of themselves, take care of their families, and also just have the ability to shake work off because what happens? Most people work Monday through Friday. They work 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 2 hours possibly in a commute. Let's say an hour commute. Okay. So by the time their week is done, they're spent. And now come Saturday and Sunday, they've got to do all the, work on the house or their apartment or their whatever, laundry, because you know as well as anyone else, you don't just come home from your job and go, all right, I can just chill after dinner. No, you're trying to do 20 fucking things, whether that's something with the kids, whether that give people the opportunity to actually have a life. Really, I think 4 days a week is more than, even at 8-10 hours a day, that's more than enough. It's more than enough.
Yes.
And then you also open up that opportunity. So let's say it's a place that's open 7 days a week. Well, now you're opening up opportunity to hire other people for, 2-3 days.
That's exactly it.
And it makes more sense. Like,
yes.
I get like this return to work thing. I get why the companies think it's a good idea. And it's only, in my opinion, because they're paying a mortgage or rent on the office buildings.
Yes.
Well, we've got a homeless problem. We've got...
That would be too logical.
We've got all these buildings that don't have people in them. What can we do with these empty buildings? Well, let's try to get more businesses in. Or, wait, in the back, your idea? Yeah, I think we should use those empty fucking buildings to home the house. It just makes sense. Take the homeless, convert those buildings. You can actually take them and say, here's a hammer, here's a paintbrush, here's a paintbrush. Here, you're going to help us create your new home. I think that makes far more sense. But again, the fuck do I know?
And in other news.
Oh boy.
From 2003. A man by the name of Andrew Carlson got onto the New York Stock Exchange and took $800 and in 2 weeks turned it into $350 million.
And this was in 2003. I'm sorry. What was his name?
Andrew Carlson.
Okay.
And Andrew Carlson was then arrested by the SEC and the FBI for insider trading. And when questioned, he gave a bizarre excuse.
Okay.
And his rationale, his story, I should say, was that he was a time traveler from the year 2256.
Now we're getting interesting.
And
2256.
while
20,
what's that?
2256?
2256.
Okay, so he really made the jump.
Yes. This wasn't just a weekender back. This was, well, I'm not going to do the math because I suck at math sometimes, but we're talking over 200 years.
Right.
And while in jail, he disappeared.
Get the fuck out. Like Epstein disappeared or like just poof?
Poof.
Poof. Oh, he poofed.
Poof. Yeah, he poofed.
Oh. It's hard to explain a poof.
He kept saying that he wanted to get back to his time machine. He just wanted to get out of jail. And they, you're not like, oh, all right, go ahead. Here's the door.
So they didn't do that. So how did he poof? If he didn't have access to his time machine?
That's a big question. And I can tell you how. Because I read the story in 2003. It was actually in the USA Today and on Yahoo News.
Well, if it's on Yahoo News, you know it's real.
The thing about this, though, is that it was originally published in the Weekly World News, which, for those who are not familiar, it's not reliable because it's supposed to be entertaining. Right. It's sci-fi news that people just write. A sister magazine to the National Enquirer. It was always meant to be entertainment.
And tongue-in-cheek.
And apparently the story got across a couple of people's desks, and they didn't bother to check it out or where the source was. They ran the story.
Oh. I'm listening.
Egg on their face. And other situations like that. In late 2010, the Weekly World News ran a satirical story written by Frank Lake, indicating that the LA Police Department intended to purchase 10,000 jetpacks at a total cost of $1 billion. However, the story was reported as fact by Fox and Friends morning news show.
Okay.
So sometimes this just doesn't get checked. It happens. But this one really got me back then because I was like a time traveler. It was right in the headline. Much like the John Tidor case, which was all over. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. Which was all over the internet. What? 25 years ago?
Something like that. I vaguely remember the John Teeter story. I don't remember the 03 story, though.
Yes. I remember distinctly being at work, and I read the newspaper every day and seeing this going, holy shit. Oh, my Odin. Look at this story. And yeah, only recently did I learn all of this information. But yeah, because it involved time travel. And who hasn't pondered time travel? I mean, like at the popularity of Back to the Future, being able to travel in time. How cool would that be? People go back in time, you do a little investing in, say Walmart, then Amazon, Microsoft.
See, that's I think the only reason I'd go back in time, though. Like, don't get me wrong. Like if that were an option, and
Mm-hmm.
quantum theory is actually exploring this, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher this, but essentially it is the idea that in the quantum realm, and I know it sounds like I'm just talking about a Marvel movie, but I'm not. In the quantum realm, time
You can shrink down really small and jump
no,
around like Ant-Man.
it's time moves both ways, consecutive or
It isn't congruent.
yeah, it doesn't follow our observation of time. So
Yeah, time is a human construct.
right. However, in my limited knowledge of this, essentially what it says is that on that level, things can exist in two different areas at the same time, and if I'm not mistaken, can be going in opposite directions. So, as an example, in one part of the quantum realm or parallel universe, you put your toothpaste on your toothbrush and you brush your teeth. In the opposite version, you are brushing your teeth in reverse. You're sucking up the toothpaste off your toothbrush and you're putting it back in the drawer. And both
And
of those
another
things
one,
can be
you're
happening.
squeezing the tube into your mouth and then brush.
Well, no, that's the interesting thing from my understanding. Like there is a level of, if you're looking at it kind of almost like string theory, like a bunch of X-rays just hanging next to each other. There is a bit of an order to it. We don't fully understand that order. But like the shift from one to the other, it could be whatever you do, I do the mirror opposite. It could be any number of things, right? Again, it's a science that we don't fully understand, but they do believe that theoretically time travel is possible based on this. So,
well, there's also the theory that even if you could travel to the past, time has a way of forcing itself, and you won't be able to change whatever happens that you're trying to change.
yeah, so like the go back in time and kill Hitler, it doesn't work out.
Well, you try to prevent the Kennedy assassination. It still
And
happens.
still happens. I think, well, part of that
You
would
also
be,
have to figure out a way, because this is the big problem with the time-space continuum, is that to travel back in time, you would also have to calculate where the Earth is. So when you do travel back in time, you're not just floating in space because you miscalculated.
I don't think that would actually be the problem, though. I don't believe that would be a problem. And I know this is going to sound absolutely fucking ridiculous, but apparently there's like this 13-year-old, 14-year-old prodigy kid who he's got a theory. Like apparently he's pretty well known. What the fuck was his name?
Pretty well known. I can't remember his name.
I can't, unfortunately. Shit. I can't remember his name. Let's see if I can find it here real quick. I think it was Max Laughlin. I think it was his name. Anyways, this kid, he's got this theory that we're actually in a different reality than we were within the last few years. Okay. His argument is that when CERN, and I don't know which experiment he's talking about. I don't know if it was the Higgs boson in 2010 or if it's later or if it was like when they ran it maybe during the pandemic. I don't know. I haven't had an opportunity to really dig into what this kid says, but he says CERN does the large hadron collider, right? Runs it.
Correct.
He said He goes, all it would take would be, I think he said, one proton or one neutrino or whatever. One of those, just one little fucking thing to be different. And it would move us into that next reality.
Oops.
Yeah. And like my understanding of it, and again, I could be totally fucking wrong, but my understanding of it is shit would change, but you may not necessarily recognize that change. You would just feel like something was a bit off. You know what I mean? And when I say that, I mean
Mandela effect.
Well, yeah, exactly. The Mandela effect. In fact, this kid goes into great detail with the Mandela effect. That's really what he kind of built this theory on, from my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And like literally, I know it sounds ridiculous, but this was my takeaway from the stuff that I heard from him. And this was brought to me by somebody else. So this friend of mine also had his own input on it. But my takeaway was basically like, oh, so they run an experiment in the collider, and no one knows that we got shifted one universe over, or one reality over, or one timeline over. And the next thing you fucking know, like you just feel like something's off, but you don't know what it is. And it could be as simple as like the branches on your fucking trees are rearranged, or your grass is in a different order. You know what I mean? Like things that or birds.
Dogs and cats living together.
Perfect harmony. It's chaos. It's chaos.
That's my go-to. It's from Ghostbusters.
So think about that. Like, what if, like, all of the stuff that you would never imagine being something that was like measurably different, right? And just because of an experiment, boom, you're just barely nudged into the next reality. Barely nudged into the next. At some point, I think you would.
And the big difference is that, the frogs have been turned gay.
Well, I think we all know that until you've stumbled upon a lily pad where you've seen a bullfrog blowing another bullfrog. I don't think you can appreciate how gay they are. They're able to lick each other's balls from 2 lily pads away. I don't know. If you could time travel, would you? And where would you go?
I totally would. However, I'm operating on the idea that I could not bet on sports or try to make money, because I feel like there would be a police for time jumping that would prevent you from doing that. Thank you, Time Cop, the movie.
Yeah.
But
let's say that didn't exist, okay?
Okay.
And you could do that. That's the assumption. Okay, great. Now I can go back in time and invest in, Walmart, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple, right? Great.
Yep.
You do that. And you set yourself up nicely in the future. Okay.
Yes.
Now we've done that. Take that out of the equation. Not because you couldn't do it, but because you did it. What are you actually interested in?
I would be, honestly, this is going to be the stupidest answer probably ever, but it's just the way that I think and feel. Number one, I would go back in time to see Black Sabbath at a small arena, a small venue.
Okay. No, I think that's.
I'm very oriented.
It's totally your thing.
I'd go back, see Led Zeppelin when they're first starting out.
So you would go back for concerts.
Concerts. Led Zeppelin. See the Beatles play in Manchester when they're first starting. Just for my own.
That's actually, I actually like that. I think that's actually kind of cool.
I would go back to the 1800s if I could and see Paganini perform live, because there's no known recording of Paganini playing violin, just the music that he wrote. So that's
actually a very cool. That's actually a very way better than on any of mine. No, because
think about it. You got a doorway to the past I really, there's always the, can I go back in time and see if Jesus really lived? Outside of that, outside of anything religious, for me, religious emotions are made by music, and to be able to go to the past to see Bach or Beethoven or Chopin even
Yeah.
play, Mozart, um, Mendelssohn, just to see those classic guys perform in person.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you go from Mozart, Bach, and Mendelssohn to, to Black Sabbath. I
Fuck yeah.
I no, I'm laughing, but I actually appreciate that. I think that's actually I think that
I mean,
shows I think it
I would
shows
be
purity
enough
in
of
your
a
thought.
weasel. I would go back into time and uh, hang out with Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath. I got to meet the guy, straight up cool ass guy. But to go back and just to jam with him before Black Sabbath, the question becomes, what do you play? You can't
Yeah.
play any Black Sabbath.
No, you can't. So now
But to pick up cues from, because I like to think that I learn from people that I play with. Yeah, that I play with
uh,
the like different techniques, and that would have been cool.
well, I think
But
so
do do I go back in time and catch Leonard Skinner?
and
Because I've
don't
seen
get
him
on the
live now.
plane. Don't get on the fucking plane,
Yeah.
buddy. Holly, don't get. Hey, Big Bopper, take the next flight. Let's see how this
I've got a
works out.
plane. See, but that
Stevie
leads into
Ray Vaughan, don't do it.
yes, Stevie Ray, that's a big one.
That was a huge loss.
But that begs the question: could you change history?
I don't think you
And
could.
that would be changing history.
I think you could.
And I think that history has a way of fixing itself if you could time travel, and it could make it even worse for them.
That's
Which
the thing.
would suck.
Is like when you talk about like the 27 Club, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Would they be
Jim Morrison? What's her
Joplin,
name?
Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain?
I'd let him still off himself.
Uh,
Not
so your hypocrisy only goes so far.
Yeah, my hypocrisy only goes so far. There's a part of me that I've always disliked Nirvana, and it grew even more when he offed himself because it was like, you've got everything. What's wrong with you?
See, you know what? I was not a fan.
That also doesn't feed the theory that he might have been killed by Courtney.
Yeah. I was never a fan necessarily of Nirvana at the time, but have become one over time. But with that being said, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's also
who's the genius in Nirvana? It wasn't Kurt Cobain. It's Dave Grohl.
Dave Grohl is a fucking genius. I don't care what anyone says. I love Dave Grohl, and
And he's such a nice guy.
I dare anyone not to like Dave Grohl. You really
Yeah.
like, even when he was telling people, look, I don't do autographs anymore. I just don't, because I don't want that on the aftermarket. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's fair, and all this stuff. And it was like, they kept bugging him, and he was still so polite. Like, he didn't have to be as polite as he was.
You ever notice there are certain people in this world that are celebrities, stars, but they don't act like it? They almost use their position to enlighten or lift up other people, such as I mentioned before, Taylor Swift. I'm not a Swiftie, but
I would say
she
you
is a
could
great
go.
human being.
I think you could go Paul
Dave
McCartney, Dave Grohl.
Dave Grohl, he has done barbecues for homeless.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of things that are just fucking awesome.
I think you could even
on that same path. I would have to include Jack Black. There's things that I read about him that I'm just like, that's a good human being.
Yeah. Drew
Keanu
Barry.
Reeves.
Keanu Reeves is an amazing human being.
Yes.
I mean, an amazing human being. I would go so far as to include in that, and I know this is going to sound way out of left field, Drew Barrymore. Not because
I don't know much about it.
not
So.
because she does, a lot of extraordinary things that
Mhm.
end up in the news. I'm sure she does a lot of extraordinary things for people. But it was one of those things where it's like, I've watched clips of her show,
Mhm.
and she's just so, like, at this point, she's so open and so honest, and just so, like, there's no filter, there's no barrier really, and you would think that growing up the way she grew up, and part of the Barrymore family, and
Yeah.
the addiction issues that plagued all the Barrymores, you would think that she would be like a very guarded kind of person, but she always comes across to me, and like,
It's genuine.
she comes across as genuine, and that's all we
Yeah.
can want from people, I think. You know what I mean? Like, you look at Keanu Reeves and he is genuinely probably uncomfortable with the circumstance that he's in, whether it's an interview or whatever. He does what he has to do because that's what he has to do. But when you see, like, more comfortable type interviews, like when he's talking about his motorcycle company or talking about motorcycles, he's
Mhm.
so honest and genuine. And the thing that kills me about Keanu more than anything else is, you hear all of these stories about him that he never put out there, but come from other people
Yeah.
about, oh, all of a
I
sudden
call that the Bill Murray effect.
yes, where it's like Bill. For those who don't know, Bill Murray will, if invited to a party, probably show up.
Yep.
He's done it many, many times. Like, he just gets invited to a college frat party, and he showed up.
He showed up and did the dishes.
Yeah, like weird, odd things, like behavior you don't expect from that type of caliber of celebrity. And
Mhm.
Keanu
Mhm.
brings the best of humanity every time no one's looking, and never says a word, and then it just bubbles up because people are like, "Can you believe Keanu Reeves pushed my fucking car out of traffic? Can you,
Someone took pictures of Keanu Reeves on his birthday.
eating the
He went and
sandwich?"
got himself, yeah, he ate a sandwich and bought himself a cupcake and then spent an hour chatting and bought a homeless guy a meal
Yeah,
and spent time with him. And then just, patted him on the shoulder, left him some money and walked away.
yeah.
And people caught it on camera because everybody's like, it's Keanu Reeves. What's he doing?
So I would say that, like, if I could time travel, I'd kind of want to be a fly on the wall for those good moments. It didn't have to be Keanu or any celebrity, but
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
when you hear a really, really wonderful story about somebody doing the right thing at the right time. One of those stories where it's like, it chokes you up a little bit because you just feel good about humanity. I would love to be able to do that. Um,
Did you know that Bill Murray doesn't have a Hollywood agent?
yeah, I did know that. It's an answering machine.
Yeah,
If you want
that's
him
an
to do a project, you got to leave a message, and he
yeah.
might or may not get back with you.
Yep.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's fucking brilliant. Cut out
Yeah,
all the metal. There's no
people always
need.
say that he doesn't make appointments. He just might show up.
I think that that's part of his brilliance. I think that it's part of the legend and lore of him. But getting back to time travel, if I had to,
What would you do?
well, I think what's because most people look at time travel and they go, you can only go in reverse, and I don't know that that's true, because if that theory of protons, neutrons, and neutrinos and all these things existing in positive and negative states at the exact same time, and you can move forward, and time isn't really something you can measure in the quantum world because it works forward and backwards. um I would want to go forward,
Mhm.
at least, you know 10, 20 years, uh and mainly because I'd want to read the news stories about, hey, Steve's missing. Just out of curiosity to see if I made it. I just, is there anything? A tweet? A fucking Facebook post? No one? Nothing? Like, I want to see if I make it on, like 60 Minutes or something.
You end up having one of those Spider-Man moments where there's multiple Steves pointing at each other.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you wonder, like, okay, well, if you jump 5 years in the future, well, you're making a pretty good assumption that you exist 5 years in the future, and then like, to me, I wonder about, all right, well, in every movie, that's a fucking paradox. You can't.
Well, it's Steve. Well, you've been missing for 4 years.
Yeah.
What?
Or have I not? You know what I mean? Like, in that future, am I just living out my life? Like, I would be curious about that.
Would you be tempted to try to change something that happened in your life?
Oh, that's a good one. Only one thing, I think. I think I would only change or try to convince myself. Like, if that paradox didn't exist, then you could tell your younger self, listen to me on this, you'll appreciate this. I think the only thing I would have probably done a little bit different is I wish I would have spent more time, like, getting more educated. Isn't
that weird? When you get older, you kind of get perspective, and you're just like, man, I pissed around at school so much.
Yeah, I wish I would.
I only knew.
Yeah, I wish I wouldn't have fucked off as much. I wish I would have paid a little bit more attention. Not for any reason other than my own personal benefit, like my own personal feeling of accomplishment. And that education could be in any number of things. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't necessarily, like, even now, I think, God, if I could just be a full-time fucking student and just for the rest of my life. I getting degree after degree after degree on everything I'm interested in, only because I'm fucking interested. Not to make money, not maybe to make a difference.
Cost so much.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying. Is like, that's where, that's where the rubber meets the road in a sense. But, like, that would, like, if I won the lottery. Like, a lot of people talk about, oh, if I won the lottery, I'd quit my job and I'd buy a, huge piece of property and I'd build this huge house and I would travel all over the world and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, all that, sure, okay, but that gets boring after a while. Like, you can't sustain it. I think it does. I do. I think it does, and in this sense, okay, it's not that it gets boring, or that it's not educational, or that it's not good for you. I think it is all of those things. But I also think that as somebody who lived 25 years on the road entertaining people, there's a monotony to it. There's a sense of, so, like, let's say, for example, it's one thing if you're traveling within the United States, as an example, because you can pretty much take a flight anywhere in the United States and spend whatever amount of time you want, and within a very reasonable amount of time, fly back home. Okay. When you go to, if you go to Europe or whatever, and now, or, Australia, you go to China, these are much longer flights, right? Yes. And just from the point of view of, I've invested 14, 20, 25 hours in travel to get here, you kind of need to stay there long enough to make it worth the round trip. There's a level of, what am I putting into this? And okay, great. If you're big fucking lottery winner, you don't have to fly, regular, you can fly private instead of, taking American airline or whatever. And that will make it more comfortable for you. All right. But you also, after a period of time, start to feel a disconnect. Like I would go out on the road for a couple months at a time on occasion. And there would be at a certain point where it was like, okay, this is hard. This is lonely. This is difficult. This is my life. This is easy. I don't recognize anything but this. I haven't, had any human contact aside from handshakes,
And drive-through windows.
and drive-through windows. And you kind of start to accept that. And you, not to say that you collapse in on yourself, but you become very, very detached from what most people consider a normal life. And I think that if you don't have that level of normality inserted, and I don't think you can go much more than a month and a half without having like reality check you a little. You can't live in hotels for 6-8 weeks and not have it fuck with your head a little bit.
Yeah, I did for a month and a half straight.
It's tough.
And it is tough.
You don't feel like you have any roots.
It's a very odd feeling.
Now, you did it though with a band.
No. I'm a couple of years ago when my house got flooded.
Oh, I got you. All right. But you still had somebody with you.
We had no running water, so we had to stay at a hotel. But it's really weird.
It is weird. So
at the I forgot where I was going to go with that.
Just
my choo-choo train fell off the tracks.
I will play conductor and get you back on track. My opinion of that though is
I just remembered.
I told you.
One of the things I would love to also do, if I could time travel, go back in time and see how the pyramids were built.
That's what I was just going to get to. To me, you can keep. All right, great. Yeah. All right. If you got the time machine and you're not limited, yeah, you go back as many times as you want to see all the shit you want. But let's say you only got 3. You got 3 periods in time, whether forward or backward. Definitively, for me, it would be seeing how the pyramids and what Egypt was like at that period of time, and understanding. I'd love. Oh fuck! I would kill. To spend time in the Library of Alexandria. Seeing what was lost, seeing how they did what they did, seeing how, whether or not with 21st century eyes, I could look and see that their belief systems were bullshit, and these aren't gods, these are just men fooling you. Or if they were in some form or fashion a little bit smarter, or a little bit more together, or had a little bit better technology or a better understanding, and where did that come from? I would go, the second place I would go would be to see the Anunnaki. I would be fascinated to see if the Anunnaki was like legit and what the story was. And then the third place I'd go would be in the future.
A Socrates. Well, tell me where I can find this Atlantis.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the thing that I find is something like the idea of time travel. If we were talking about this even 3 to 5 years ago, it would come across as just this fantastical kind of concept. However, the advances in everything, I mean, literally everything that have happened in the last 5-10 years, it's no longer something that people are looking at and going, no, that's just impossible. It's actually something that, people are looking at and studying and going, oh, theoretically it's possible, and theoretically this is what would happen. I still think that they've got to go through all of the movie paradoxes and make sure that shit ain't real. You know, I'm not expecting that everything that was in Back to the Future 1 through 3 has any legitimate theories, but you can recognize a paradox on your own. You don't necessarily need to be a scientist to recognize, oh, that might be fucked up. That might be a problem. And yeah, I could see like me going back in time to say something or educate me in something, and back, 1993 Steve sees 2024 Steve and has a few things to say, like, what the fuck is this? First off, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack. Secondly, oh, it's not a heart attack. Apparently I'm losing my fucking mind. Third, and then finally settling into, you look horrible.
Well, you could set up for your future self like a code word, so you knew that it was you. Like you pop out and Snuffleupagus. Oh, that really is me.
That is me. That is me.
If I had to nail down 3 musical things to go back in time to see, I would have to pick Paganini, Black Sabbath in a small bar in Manchester, and the Ramones at CBGB's. But those are my 3. I was really pondering. If I could only choose 3 musical acts.
See, that's a tough one. I mean, you made some hard choices there.
Yeah.
You made some hard choices. Geez, if it were me. I don't know. I would definitely want to see Mozart. No. I take that back. Not Mozart. I'd want to see Beethoven.
Beethoven.
Yeah,
he was badass.
I would.
That dude dueled people.
Yeah,
There was a case where he dueled, or was it Bach? I don't remember.
I think it was Beethoven.
Both of them were fiery.
Yeah, they were both fucking fiery motherfuckers. I would definitely want.
For me, it's Paganini because, like I said,
there's no
only
known.
his. Yeah, he would write, but he would perform, and there's so much mystique around his performances.
Yeah, because he would put his own little smooth shit on it.
It was so technical, and I mean, there's a lot of stories around his shows. He'd break some strings and wouldn't even stop. He would just play higher on the fretboard. People, apparently a conductor lit a piece of paper on fire and no one paid attention. And he's always been associated with, he sold his soul to the devil for his talent.
Maybe he did.
Because he was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, for me, there's you could say
the other part of me in the back of my brain, I'm like, sneaky walkie, steal his violin.
Yeah.
I would not do that.
See, I don't know. There's just to me, there's just a mystique, I guess, around Beethoven, and some. I mean, whether it's Ode to Joy or Moonlight Sonata, and the list can literally go on and on. But I've always identified and appreciated those pieces, and kind of the pain that comes with that, and the idea that he lost his hearing and but still kept fucking writing. Hey, he can't hear it. He can't. It's all in his head.
But he knew how each note sounded.
Right. He knew, and so that kind of badass mystique is one. If I had to, I know, I would like to have seen, and these are 2 more modern. I would like to have seen Billy Joel when he was playing in piano bars.
I knew you were going to say Billy Joel.
How can you not? I'm a huge
I can
fan.
understand that.
And although I'm a bigger fan of Sting than I am of the Police, I would still want to see the early Police play. Now, arguably, you could say, well, why wouldn't you go with the Beatles? It's because to see the early Beatles is not necessarily the Beatles that I liked the best. I
can understand.
liked
The hippy dippy.
more of the hippie and more of the experimental and more of like really kind of like from Rubber Soul on. I preferred them. The Love Me Do and all that, kind of 50s, 60s teeny bop boy band bullshit. It did nothing for me. It was important in music. It's just I didn't care for it. You know what I mean? Like I still appreciate it for what it was and when it came out, and I can recognize the genius. But really, there's a big difference between, there's just a huge difference between Love Me Do or, Rita Meter Maid or whatever it was, and
I am the walrus.
Yeah, and Blackbird and Cuckoo Cachoo. It's just huge. Strawberry feel like there's a big jump there.
Another big one for me actually would probably, if I had unlimited jumps, go back to 1970 to see the Doors live.
You'll never get me on that one.
No.
I there are some bands historically that I don't have any logical reason or even a thought as to why I dislike them. It's just guttural. That's one. The Doors, I am not a fan of. Never have been a fan. Don't see it. Don't get it. Not interested in trying to understand it. And then Creedence Clearwater Revival. And it's not even that the music bad. It's just I can't stand John Fogerty's voice.
Well, I think it's cool, raspy.
I just don't. I don't
One
like
of the few artists that got sued for his own songs.
How's that?
He had to go to court and testify because the record company sued him for a song that he wrote that sounded like a previous song that he wrote, and the record company was pissed off with him. And, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Because ultimately it was I wrote them both. Of course, there's going to be some kind of similarity.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. So that would be like if we were just doing.
I could see you going back in time to see Lenny Bruce live.
Yeah, I could appreciate that. Okay. But in the end, I don't know what time frame I would go. You know what I mean? Because like there's the early Lenny Bruce where he's coming up.
Well, you've got a time machine. You don't have to choose which one.
Yeah, just that's true. But there's also the sad end of that where he's just reading court transcripts at the in I think San Francisco at the time, and it was like the only club that would book him. He goes from doing back then making $5,000 a week, which was ridiculous money. He goes from that to no one will book him. His court fees are just draining his account. He's shooting heroin on the regular, and all he's doing is reading and explaining court documents to the audience. So, like, I kind of would want to see it, beginning, middle, and end. But the end to me was so sad for him. I don't know that
I can understand that.
I don't know that would necessarily be something that I would want to put in my in my pocket and take home. Tell you what I wouldn't mind of seeing was the moment that Pryor realized, yeah, I can do TV, but I'm going to do this instead. When he streaked through a casino jumped up on a table and butt ass naked goes blackjack. Yeah, that's something that there's a level of crazy versus genius, and I think it's I think it's a very fine line. I really
Yeah,
do.
there's a thin line between the
I
two.
think there's an incredibly thin line between being a genius and a lunatic. And I'm not.
I would also want to go back in time and take a job in a studio where I'm just sweeping while also watching Sinatra lay down some tracks back in the 50s,
Yeah, that'd be
40s.
cool. That would be absolutely cool. Like again, like for me, it's like these monumental mysteries. You know, if Atlantis existed, I would go back and see Atlantis. Um, we don't know if. I mean, we know that supposedly Anunnaki existed, but we don't know what the story was. We know that the Egyptians existed, but we don't know exactly what the story was and how it came to be. So, like, to me, yeah, obviously, when the library was fully stocked, I would love to see it then, but I don't need to see it being built. I need to jump from, oh, this is the beginning of Egyptian civilization and myth, and this is actually what happened, and being able to, I don't know, this sounds ridiculous, but fuck it, we're talking time travel, so why is this any more ridiculous? Like that. Remember that Adam Sandler movie where he had the remote control and he was able to fast forward? Click. Okay. Like the idea of being able to have a level of control of how you're absorbing it. That I would like. There was a movie with Scarlett Johansson called Lucy. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, so in this, and I'm not promoting ScoJo. In fact, I'm not really a big fan. But this movie was interesting to me. So what ends up happening is, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Lucy, don't fast forward through this part. She is essentially dating a drug mule. And
oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, he sends her in to do the deal or whatever and ends up with, basically getting they knock her out and they have a bunch of these different mules, like 4 of them, and they open their stomachs up and if I remember correctly, they put the drugs, whatever this drug is, package it into them, and then they're sending them on these flights, and hopefully everything goes good, and then they have it removed. Well, hers breaks, and now she's got this flood of this drug going through her body. And essentially, it sends her fucking mind into, overload. She's now, basically able to control shit with her mind. She basically, it unlocks her brain to the fullest potential. And in the course of it, the reason they call it Lucy, I don't remember if her character's name was Lucy, but it had to do with the fact that she was able to get to this point where she was experiencing time differently. So she went all the way back to the hominid Lucy and was looking at her face to face. So she was just soaring, like just as 1632 times fast forward, but in reverse, and was able to pause, kind of stop and check out something and then continue. That to me would be optimal, to where you could kind of forward or reverse through time in a way where you could choose the events that you wanted to see and get out of it quickly and move on. You know what I mean? Because look, I would love to see Pearl Harbor or D-Day or any of that shit. But I would also like to be able to...
I have issues with that. like something Pearl Harbor, because you could not guarantee your safety.
No, I don't think you
Much
could.
like, well, going back to Egypt,
I don't think
like
at any point you can guarantee your safety.
no, but I'm thinking active war zones might be
Well, again,
a little
you gotta
sketchy.
wonder: are you existing in a bubble in time where you're observing and maybe able to interact with inanimate objects, so like a book or whatever? But are you able to actually interact, or are you just watching it like you watch a video or you watch a TV show? I think that would be definitely a question because look. Um, you go back to ancient Egypt wearing what you're wearing right now, you're
True.
probably going to have some issues, like just right out of the gate because they're going to be like, what the fuck are you wearing? Like, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb. So that's the other aspect of it is, okay, am
Well, you're gonna
I,
have to dress for whatever period.
well, okay, but a lot of that's a guess. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we're going to go back to Roman times. We know we can get away with a toga, but was that every day? Was that like normal? Like, did you have dress togas? You know,
Do I need to get a formal toga?
yeah. Do I have to have? Is this black tie toga? Um, I think that there is that aspect. So like, you could, to the best of your ability, and what with whatever resources you have, try to accommodate that. But at the end of the day, you would have to be prepared with the ability to purchase what you actually need. And again, that's part of the problem. You know what I mean? Like, where are you going to get? I mean, do you even know what they're using at that time, or is it a barter situation? I mean, like, and how much are you able to time travel with? Are you able to have, any type of currency with you? I
Gotta
don't know.
get
There's
some
a lot.
drachmas.
It's just, it's the thing is, it's just so many questions on like the functionality of it, like the nuts and bolts, like what can you do and what can't you do. I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating. I don't.
Plus, would there be the temptation to alter where you get into a situation and you're like, please don't kill me. If you don't kill me, I'll teach you the secret of dynamite.
Well, again, you're changing, you're changing the future at that point. And I honestly don't think under any circumstance that you can do that. I would say that is,
Well, it would be the danger of time travel.
well, not just the danger of it, but I think that is like probably the one paradox that you cannot, or the one thing that you cannot break the rule on is um, changing, specifically, I would say changing a large future. So, as an example, you go back in time, you kill
You'll be
Hitler
done
as a
with.
baby,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
World War II doesn't happen, or does it happen but it's worse, or does it happen but you know if it doesn't, it's maybe not worse, but it doesn't work out in the way that you think it would, and then now because you made that decision, the time travel machine doesn't get built, and now you're trapped.
You ever see the movie? Oh man, I don't remember the name of it. It was from the late 70s, I think, and it's a military movie. And essentially, an aircraft carrier, I think, gets into a storm on the ocean, and they get sent back to. Uh, they're in the same area, which is Hawaii, and they're seeing Japanese planes coming in, and they've got a squadron in the sky,
Mm-hmm.
the modern military for
Mm-hmm.
that time, and they just see these guys and open fire on them, and then realize, oh shit, this is Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, and
What did we do?
they were in modern,
Yes.
right. Oh fuck, what was that? Well, I mean, you could even go back to was it? I don't think it was called. I don't think it was part of the Manhattan Project. But remember the time travel thing that supposedly happened with the sailors, like the ship.
No, that was the Manhattan, or no, Philadelphia.
Philadelphia experiment. Thank you. I knew it
Yeah.
wasn't the Manhattan. I couldn't think of Philadelphia experiment. So, in that, okay, and again, why don't we know if this is true or not? Why don't we have official government stance on this? You know what I mean? Like, you would think we would. But when you look at that and you go, okay, well, is that possible? It seems ridiculous, right? But then you go back and you realize, I think it was in 2021, there was a Freedom of Information Act that got Tesla's papers. Because when Tesla died, FBI came in, took all of his papers.
Took everything.
Took everything. Like 2 truckloads worth.
Yep.
Okay. And he had claimed firsthand account that he had time traveled. So the question becomes, well, if that was possible when Tesla was alive, why wouldn't it be possible for the Philadelphia experiment? And why wouldn't it make sense that if that did, quote unquote, work, you wouldn't have on the reverse side of it where you had guys that were just now fused within the ship, this part, like their head is outside the ship, their body's inside the ship, and they are fucking trapped and not feeling good about any of it. You know what I mean? So like, let's put it this way.
Yeah, but can you scratch just below my butt cheek? I've got an itch.
So let's put it this way, and we'll wrap it up with this. I am all for time travel. I just don't want to be the first one.
Could you imagine really quick being in today's military and your squadron with, you got a Humvee with full weaponry, and all of a sudden, oops, you hit 88 miles per hour, and you end up, at one of the battles in in the Revolutionary War.
Oh, you would be a bad motherfucker back then. You come rolling through in a Humvee with fucking with a full load
cannon.
Oh, can you imagine? I mean, like whether Revolutionary War or Civil War or whatever, if you think about that, I'll put money on it that with a very well-equipped Humvee and enough ammo for a, call it 48-hour time travel. If you had that, you could wipe out, Civil War wouldn't have happened. It would have been over in minutes. Because as soon as they saw a Humvee, like, that would make them drop their jaws just seeing the Humvee. And then you unload with like a 50 cal and just start mowing motherfuckers down. Are you kidding me? Like, all you got to do is surprise them enough to where they're slack jawed and then just open fire. And guess what? War's over. And in probably quick fashion too. That'd be that'd be kind of fucking fun. That would be kind of like funny. If we're doing like go back in time and fuck with shit with no consequence. Oh yeah, I'm doing that. I'm I'm fucking doing that. That's happening. You know?
Yep.
But by the same token, you could kind of do similar even in World War II. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All you need is one fucking stealth bomber to come cruising through the time continuum. And I'm going to guarantee you there's going to be some Germans shitting their pants in 1942, 3, 4. You know,
You're just a single soldier.
Oh God, that would be weird. Like
Get
just a
flipped
time
back to World War II, and it's just you and your truck full of drones.
Oh
Like,
God, are you kidding me?
well, what needs to be taken out?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Hitler? Okay, I got it. Like if you think about it, like in that time frame, and that we're talking what 80 years, 80-ish, not
Mhm.
yeah, 80 years ish. If all you did was go back in time with some of our current drone technology, that war would have been over. It would have been over before it even began.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like it's interesting because and this I think ties into time travel to a degree. But it's interesting to me when you think about it from this point of view that what we do consistently is we create more deadlier weaponry in order to prevent war.
Are you familiar with the Battle of Culloden?
Not the way I should be.
Scottish British, long time ago, but just oops, wind up back in time. Me and my 30-30 and a bunch of ammo.
I mean, even that, like I said, I mean,
Pop, 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 pop.
if you think about it, if you went back with in time with just an AR,
Yeah.
if you're running around with a fucking AR and enough magazines loaded, and you're dealing with fucking guys that are muzzle loading, it ain't gonna work out well for them. Ain't gonna work
9
out.
millimeter. 9 millimeter.
Oh, like I said, any modern weapon taken back far enough is magic.
You got Kevlar on, you're gonna scare the shit out of people. I've shot him 3 times.
I can't.
He's just staring at me like,
Yeah, I mean, so
boom. Ow.
so I think we can wrap this up by saying, definitely if you're gonna go back in time, bring some cool weapons, preferably a Humvee and a 50 cal, and a lot of ammo. If you're gonna go back in time, probably not a good idea to visit yourself. Maybe leave yourself a note. Like I would do that. I would definitely do that. I'd be like, here's a
Go to the
post-it.
post office.
Yeah, just a post-it. Whatever. And be like, you don't know me, but I'm you, and you need to buy this stock. Or play these numbers. That would
We'll have to do a whole show on just if we won the lotto.
okay. Let's do that next. And with that,
All right.
next show is what we would do if we won the lotto. Thank you. Good night.
Peace.